Welcome to Backstage with Becca with a special guest, Leana Rae Concepcion. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, she was in the world premiere of Rattlesnake at Denver Center for Performing Arts. She workshopped Romy and Michele, where she played Michele, has been seen Off-Broadway in Comfort Woman and the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, and she recently made her Broadway debut in Merrily, We Roll Along. Please welcome Leana Rae Concepcion.
Hi.
Hi.
This
How
is
are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. We're in what? Preview number 5 tonight.
Yeah.
So it's going really well. It's very, very fun and very exciting, but I'm very good. How are you doing?
Good. Very good. Excited to talk to you today. I was looking at your resume yesterday and the world premieres and workshops you have on there are great. So I'm excited to talk about everything.
Yeah, let's do it.
Of course, Broadway debut.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah.
You must be like, oh my God, this is happening.
Yeah.
Dreams come true.
It is such an interesting thing because it's like my biggest dream and it's very strange that it's happening and that I'm like currently living through it, but it's also like incredible. But it also, I was having this conversation the other night with my friend, and it also feels, without trying to sound like, overly confident or cocky or anything, but it also just feels very right.
Yeah.
Like it feels like home, honestly, right? And I think it has to do with a lot of things. And I think one of the biggest things is also I'm doing it with a show that I already know and love and with a group of people that I already love. So it doesn't feel like Broadway, which is really strange. I was just talking to Jonathan last night. He's like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "Dude, it feels weird. I feel like really comfortable." It's like, yeah, I was like, I look out and I obviously see more people, but it feels like the same little show that we were doing downtown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Off-Broadway.
Yeah.
And it's good to be back with the little family.
Yeah, very much so.
So before I get into Merrily, I want to talk about when did you first realize that you wanted to be a theater performer and that you love performing?
Yeah. Well, I actually have a very, very weird and crazy story. So I actually went to military school for 6 years. I did like, it was like a high school slash military like program that was within it. So
Whoa.
I actually saw myself going into the military for as long as I can remember. And my sophomore year, I like reconnected with a friend of mine. Um, and she was like, "Oh, there is this dance conservatory opening in our town. So you should come and join." And I was like, "Yeah, actually, that sounds great." Also knowing that that would make my application to West Point look a little bit more interesting if I had some extracurriculars. So I started dancing my sophomore year. And then my junior year, there was a sister musical theater program about 45 minutes away from where I grew up. And we would like take one of those like big 15-seater vans a couple times a week and drive up there. And we were all required to audition for the fall musical that year, which also was their first musical. It was like a new program, and it was Hairspray. And I was actually cast, yeah, yes, Hairspray. I was actually cast as Penny. And I was like, "Oh, this is like really cool, right?" The cool thing about this program is that the high school students would play the kids and they would fly out like Broadway people to play the adults. So we were doing these shows with some really incredible people, which was very exciting. And then my junior year, the spring semester, I did a chorus line and played Deanna, and we were doing What I Did for Love, um, probably on like closing night. And I just remember like the electricity in the room and like the feeling of home and the feeling of like, what is this? And I just decided that I didn't want to go the rest of my life without not feeling that again, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I just like
this is great. Like being on center stage performing for people and like the applause.
Yeah, and it just even yeah, the applause is cool. But there was just something about it. It just I don't know, there was something about just every single person in one place
Yeah.
listening to the same thing and having whatever feeling they're having about it and whatever it's bringing up maybe from their own experience. That was just something that was so moving to me at the time that I was like, wow, we are doing that, right? All of us collectively on the stage are allowing people to have whatever feelings and moments and memories that they're having. So it was very powerful. So then I decided to do musical theater, and I spent like that entire summer researching how to get into musical theater school because it's very hard.
Yes, it
And yeah.
Wow. That's a cool story. And you must have been like, well, I guess I'm kind of good at this. Like once you got started getting cast in it and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's a plus.
yeah, I like sung in church a lot. So I like knew I could sing. And we also I grew up in San Bernardino, California, and there was this thing called junior university, which like those amphitheater like bowls
Yes.
a lot of towns have. They did they did musicals every summer, and it was like the cool thing to do. So I actually did I think 3 of them. But the really cool thing about this place is like my first one was Aladdin, but you don't actually do Aladdin. You do like the story of Aladdin, but there are it's like a brand new score, um, and extra characters. So like I actually played a little genie, like a genie in training who followed the big genie around. So it's very like cool. Yeah, it's a great place.
Because
Yeah.
I'm in Los Angeles. So
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's really cool. So I mean, I that was like for fun. It was like what you did in the summer. I never at that point realized that that would be something that you could actually do like as a career. So it wasn't until I got older that I was like, oh yeah, I remember that singing and dancing I used to do.
yes. Do you remember what the first theater show you ever saw was?
Oh, Mary Poppins.
Oh, iconic, iconic.
Yeah.
And I feel
You know
like
what?
I haven't like there hasn't been a production in a long time, so not many people as of right now have gotten to see it live.
Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah, I did one of those did you ever have those 8th grade trips like those the Washington DC trip at your school?
I didn't do Washington DC or anything cool, but I'm from Texas, so
Okay.
we did San Antonio, and it was just
Oh,
boring.
yeah. Well, ours for our 8th grade trip, it was the first year that they were doing Washington, D.C. and New York. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. That's so fun. Wait, I actually have, should I show
I'm
you a
so
picture?
jealous.
I found these pictures the other day and because I was like getting like emo about being on Broadway.
Oh
So I was like, wait, I think I have the pictures of when I was in New York for the first time.
goodness,
It'll take me like maybe 30 seconds because I thought it was like,
so cool.
oh no, where is it?
Especially to find them like during like while all of this is happening for you.
Right? I was like, I love Facebook.
Yeah, oh my god, yes. Except for my old statuses.
Oh my God, those memories are so freaking funny. I can't.
I don't know how anyone added me and like dealt with me on Facebook, but it's fine.
I know social media is so funny because we look
It
back like
was.
when we were young and I was like, oh my gosh, we were so innocent and so chill and so funny.
And it's evolved so much.
It has evolved into something I have no idea what it is. Okay, I can't find these
Exactly.
pictures. What
Exactly.
world? I can't find them.
I don't know. If you find them later, maybe.
Okay, that sounds good.
Or or if you find them, maybe I can like put up something on the screen later.
Oh my God, that would be so funny. I have them. I just don't know where. I'll send them to you.
Yes, yes. So how, I mean, growing up you said that you did those shows in San Bernardino, but like what do you think helped you kind of like become a well-rounded performer and prepared for, I mean, as you said, college auditions are hard
Uh,
to get into
well,
college.
so that musical theater program I told you I did Hairspray and a chorus line. It was actually an after school musical theater program called Musical Theater University. So they took classes like, so I had about a year in those classes, so I could kind of just like get at least a bit of a foundation of like what in the world acting is, right? Um, so that was really fun. I took maybe a handful of voice lessons at the time. Like basically I didn't start training my voice until I got to college. Um, but yeah, so it was cool. I mean, I just got like the bare bones ideas of what like scene study was and how to sing a song or like how to act through song, that sort of thing, and like scene partners and all of that stuff. Really the bare bones. So I don't know. I mean, again, without trying to sound like cocky or confident or anything, I think I did have a natural gift for it. But it wasn't until like and then went to Pace. That's where I went to undergrad, and that's really where the foundation of like the technique and you know it all
Yeah.
came from there. And I'm very 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 grateful for that education, because I use it every single day of my life. I think like the things I learned in school was the foundation of everything that I'm using. And then with every single show, I learn more and more. So
It's
it's very great.
it's the real life experience too that matters in
Yeah.
in basically everything. But I feel like doing musical theater, it definitely helps to like be in the room with other people and learn from other people.
Yeah. Like even watching
Yeah.
people work, you learn so much.
Yeah. So what was your first like big audition after college that you remember being like, "Oh my gosh, like I can't believe I got this audition."
Yeah.
And
Um, it was for, oh, what is that show? It was at Arena Stage with Michael Arden.
oh,
Arena Stage, Michael Arden. I love these little.
that's a like widely known theater.
Yeah,
So,
it's Arena. Yeah, Arena Stage is so brilliant. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a musical. It was a new musical, at Arena Stage with Michael Arden, and I was like in finals for it, which was really exciting. And I didn't get it, which is fine, but it was really heartbreaking at the time. I wanted it so bad. Um, but that was one of my first really big auditions right out of school. It was cool. I mean, I graduated in 2019, so I had about 6 months in the
oh
industry before I
yeah,
washed it down.
yeah.
Um, yeah, about 6 months, which was great because I mean, my team that I signed with, like post showcase and first 6 months in, said something to me that I held on to that was really helpful. Was my job out of school was to book the room rather than book the job, right? Because for a lot of these new casting directors and directors and choreographers, like I was completely green, no one knew who I was. So my agents had to like push for me to get appointments. Um, but at some point, what you really want is for those people to come to your team and be like, hey, like, would Leana like to be seen for this? We see her blah 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 in this, and can we call her in, right? And it makes their job much easier. They don't need to push anymore, which that's kind of where we were at, before the pandemic. Was I was making such good introductions with all of these casting directors and teams and stuff that it was really nice. It was nice too coming out of the pandemic because then I felt like I had footing and I had a way to like jump back in as the industry started to open up again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm speaking of which, I want to talk about the world premiere that you did in
Yeah.
Denver.
Yes.
So you were in a show called Rattlesnake Kate, I saw in Denver.
Yes.
And I think I saw like something about it being like Colorado history or like involving
Yeah.
Colorado history. So
Yeah.
what a perfect place to have that world premiere, which I'm
Yeah.
sure the producers were thinking about
Yeah.
when they said it. So how did you get involved in that show?
I It's so funny because I would say around mid-November is like a silent cutoff that if you don't have a job, you're kind of like, okay, I'm not going to work for the rest of the year. Like, we'll pick it back up once the holidays are over, right?
Yeah.
Because it's Thanksgiving and then there's,
Holiday enjoy.
holidays, people are traveling, it's the end of the year, then you have Christmas and New Year's and all of that, right?
Yes.
So in 2021, yeah, 2021, it was like mid-November, and I was like, all right, well, guess I'm not working for the rest of the year. That's fine with me. And I randomly got this appointment for this show called Rattlesnake Kate. And I had never heard of it. So I like, found as much as I could online. There was only, a handful of videos because it was a world premiere. And I was like, oh, this seems like really cool. So I taped for it. And then I got a call back. And then I got a call back and I went in and did like a work session with the team. And I was like, oh, I feel really good about it. And then that day, like just later that afternoon, I got the call that I had booked it. And I was like, oh shit, okay. Now I gotta go to Colorado for 3.5 months. And it was funny because at the time I was actually newly in a relationship with my boyfriend currently. And he, yeah, and he at the time was working for a company that had just moved their like base, I can't remember the word right now, but basically they had just moved their like base office to Denver. And he was like, hey, why don't I just like come with you? So
Wow.
we both just like picked up and went to Denver for like 3 months together.
Oh
Um,
my gosh. It's like kind of like fate there.
no, it really was because I was like, wow, I'm just like in this new relationship and I'm like in love and I'm like, I don't really want to leave him for 3 months. And he was like, let's just go. And I was like, oh my God. And it was actually one of the best things ever. It was like truly, truly an amazing time the two of us had, and I think like solidified our relationship. But yeah, so that's how I got involved with that. It was really, really, really fast. I mean, it was like the same day. I was like, yeah, I guess I'll find out soon. And I got like a call like 3 hours later that I had booked it.
Coincidences happen and they shock me, but like stuff is meant to happen. Stuff
Yeah.
like that is meant to
Yeah.
happen. So, how did Colorado audiences react to the show? Because like it must have been kind of special to perform for them, knowing the bit of history that came from the show. And what is the show about, first of all?
Yeah, so it follows this woman named Kate Slaughterback. So she is very famous in Colorado history for she was a farmer and she had a son and they were traveling somewhere, right? They were traveling back to their home. And I did not know this, but rattlesnakes migrate. It's like the Great Migration or something. And they got caught in the middle of it and she killed I think 166 rattlesnakes or something like that in the high hundreds to save her and her son's life. So
Oh,
she's like kind of went down in history in Colorado as like this like epic woman, right?
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's just about her life. It and she had a really rough one. I mean, she had a really rough life. She couldn't catch a break because you would think like, okay, great, I've killed X amount of rattlesnakes and now my life is going to be amazing, and it literally went downhill from there,
Oh,
which is really sad. So yeah, so I mean, so it's about her life and all of the people who came in and out of it. And it was the thing that's really cool is that it was written by Neela Pekarik, who was a part of the Lumineers, who is a Colorado native. So it's very cool. So Neela is like, I mean, it's like her baby, and it's incredible. It started as an EP of hers, and
my
then was
goodness.
turned into a musical. And she was in it. She played the horse,
Oh
Brownie.
my goodness. I love the Lumineers music.
Yeah, they're
So
fantastic.
like the vibe sounds amazing. When I
Oh,
read
the
that, I was
score.
like, that whole vibe, like I need the show to come back and come to the West Coast, to LA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it could totally like. I think it could have a life. I think it
Yeah.
just needs more work, but I think it just needs some more workshops, right? And another out of town. And I think it's great though.
I mean, I think the Lumineers music is a great selling point.
Yeah.
Like
And
that style music. Yes.
that's the most gorgeous scores I've ever sung.
Oh my goodness. I want to see it. You're
Yeah, it
making
was a good one.
you're making me want to see it. What's it like being part of like a developing show or like a new musical or a workshop for something? Because you were also part of the Romy and Michelle workshop,
Yeah.
and
I
you were actually a lead in it.
yeah,
So opposite Brittany Johnson.
yes. Yeah, am very, very fortunate and very grateful. I, with the exception of um Merrily, I've only done new work, which is really, really cool. Like everything I've been a part of has been new. Um, and a lot of workshops that aren't even on my like resume and stuff. Um, I really love it. I think, and I had training. I had training for it in school. We did something called Pace New Musicals where people would submit and we would get to be like the guinea pigs, right? And like get to put it on its feet and like they could do workshops and they could change it and et cetera, et cetera. So I have always had an affinity for doing new work. And I think it also takes a certain kind of actor to be in the room to be able to give good feedback and like to be very malleable and stuff like that. So yeah, so I love doing new work. It's like my favorite thing. Um, it's just so exciting to I don't know, be able to like receive new work and do it. And then if you're in a room where your voice and opinion, has merit and has power, it's just exciting the collaboration of it all. And to feel like, oh, like my opinions, while we all may have them, sometimes aren't needed, or sometimes aren't necessary, or sometimes are not the right thing. Um, so you have to be very strategic, right? Everyone has to be strategic in those rooms because really what you say can shift and shape the piece for the long run as well.
How much of like the like changes that go on during the beginning stages of the shows do you get to be a part of as an actor in the rehearsal room?
It really just depends. It depends on the team. It depends on how far along the project is. Um, I think it also honestly depends on like age. It sounds weird, but I was just at the O'Neill and this past summer and someone was like what's one thing that you regret in your career so far? And for me, was it was Romy and Michelle. And I say this because I was 20, I was 22 when I booked it, 22, 23. It was my first big job in New York that I ever booked. And I was scared shitless. I was scared shitless. I was like, it was really random that it went to me. I honestly was like, oh, that is actually crazy. Like, do you know what I mean? Um,
You're like looking at your name on all the like websites and the like in the press, and you're like, what? That's
yeah.
me.
Yeah, but I was also like, I didn't grow up with this movie, so I don't know these characters, which I think was nice because I had no idea what it was. Um, I actually, oh my God, this is, yeah, yeah, I had no idea what it was. And I kind of had that lens, which I think was really helpful for the team. But my biggest regret is I wish that opportunity came to me now because I feel like I have not only the skill set, but I feel like I have more, oh, what is the word I'm looking for? Like when you do stuff, what is it called? Like more experience. Thank you.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, experience.
More
Yeah, yeah.
experience. I feel like I have the skill set to actually be useful in that room. Like I was very much just very malleable in that room rather than actually giving them like good feedback or like ideas or asking great questions where I feel like I can do that now. And I think that's just like comes with age and maturity and
Yeah.
experience, right?
And
Because I was so scared. I was like, I don't want to say the wrong thing because it's my first time being in this position. Like I don't know what to do or what to say. And I haven't had the opportunity to really witness, people do that like I am now. Like I'm witnessing the trio, Dan, John, and Lindsay, truly lead a room and lead a show and like be advocates for everyone in the room and share their ideas in a very appropriate way or like question a direction and whatever. So yeah, so that's my biggest regret. And I think that that is a huge lesson and something that I'll bring with me for the rest of my career.
I mean, the confidence comes with time and comes with like
Yeah.
being in more rooms, I feel like. And it's realistic it's kind of realistic that it doesn't happen overnight. I feel
Yeah.
like it's good for people to hear that like your first job, hey, you don't automatically walk into a room and you're like, okay, I'm ready to just like give all my ideas.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
probably not always not ready because just
Yeah.
isn't there.
Well, and then another interesting thing with that, and I'm not saying it's because, right? But everyone in that room, like all the creatives had been working on that show for many years. Like since its original out of town in 2016, right? And a lot of the other leads have been kept through all of the iterations as well. Um, and me and Brittany were leading it, but we were both very new to the project. But Brittany like grew up with that movie because she's older than I am, and so I didn't know anything about these people. Like I didn't even watch them. I'm so silly. I normally like watch the movie and read everything I can about it, but with this one I think it was just like a really busy time that I was doing a lot of self tapes and I didn't have time, and I did not realize that Romy and Michele, like that they were two best friends. I thought they were love interests, which is so fucking funny. And then I watched the movie and I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I'm actually an idiot. I can't believe I sent that self tape. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
crazy. I can't believe I just shared that. That's so embarrassing.
Oh my God, but I love that. I love that
It
because
works though. I was reading it and I was like, oh, like they're in love. Like these people are in love. I didn't realize that Romy was a girl. I guess I should have like I probably should have gotten that, but I was so dumb. I was like, yeah, I think they're just like in love. Okay, great. They're like high school like lovers.
you're fresh to the role, and I feel like that's probably why they were like, oh my gosh, she's perfect.
But but I will say, actually, yes, I found out that they were not lovers. But I struggled a lot. The first like 3 days of rehearsal, I was like, oh, I'm gonna fail. Like I'm gonna fail this project. This is terrible. Because well, also there's a lot of things that go into it. First off, being I'm not Lisa Kudrow. Love her, but I'm not Lisa Kudrow. I don't look like Lisa Kudrow, right? I'm also a different comedic. I'm a different comedian than Lisa Kudrow. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because I also wasn't interested in doing a carbon copy of what she does
Yeah.
because I have to find my own life within the Michele that she created, that all of the women before me who played the role created, that Robin, who is like the original writer of it, also created, who was in the room with us, right? Um, and I say I only share that I thought they were lovers because the thing that actually unlocked the comedy for me is understanding that they do love each other so much.
Yeah.
And everything I do and say in that show was because I loved Romy so much because she's my best friend. And that earnestness and like that like deep true love that I had for Romy actually is what unlocked the comedy for me because I just played everything so truthfully, right? Because that's, I mean, everyone knows that. Like when you have comedy, you don't play the jokes because then they're not funny, but you have to find your way in. And that was my way in. And it was interesting because as soon as that clicked in my brain, I was like, oh, there's my Michele. And there was a shift in the room too. They're like, oh, you found her. And it was because of that.
And I've talked to people about comedy before, and it's like I've heard it's like the hardest genre in theater and anything entertainment wise.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
it's like math. It's math.
yeah. And it's like you're probably also thinking about like how will the audience react in the back of your head. Like you can't
Yeah.
help but think of that.
Yeah. And I think another thing too is while it is math and it should work every time, it's not always going to. And then I think the hardest thing is staying true to what you've rehearsed, knowing that maybe they're not as loud as the audience yesterday, but they're still enjoying it. To not push, right? Because I do that shit all the time. I'm like, oh, I didn't get a laugh, so now I'm gonna like push harder, and it makes it less funny. So there's also like a certain element of trust.
And yeah, you have to like, hey, if you didn't get the laugh that time, just like kind of like wait, take it slow.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, how cool is it to know that you like kind of put your footprint on the Michele in Romeo and Michele for like, a Broadway stage?
Yeah, I mean it does feel that way. It was actually a conversation that Robin and I had at the end of the process. Um because she knew that I mean, I was working so hard to try and find my Michele. And once it finally clicked, it clicked. And then I really just like sat in the process and I was like, I'm ready to go. And that's one of the things that we talked about actually at the end was like she pulled me aside and she told me, she was like, you have shown me a different side of Michele, a side of Michele that I didn't realize existed. And she was very grateful for that because I think it's true. I mean, I think like when you give people the opportunity, a new person to see these characters and live in these characters, I think it's inevitable that other people will find new life in it. So I was just really, I was really excited. I was just really excited that that did happen for me. Yeah. I don't know if it'll always happen, but it was just really wonderful. And I think like similar to what we were saying earlier, it just felt like kismet, like fate, because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about these people. I didn't know anything about the project. I didn't know anything. And I think that actually, while that may have been a hindrance, I think it actually was for the best.
To your advantage, I think, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And I know that like a bunch of there are everyone's wanting 90s stuff to come back. So I feel like that definitely has a future and a place on Broadway.
It's so good. And I'm not even saying that because I was a part of it and I would love to do it. Um, because I'm very good at being like, oh, this is maybe not so good, or like, oh, this really needs work. It is actually so good.
Yes.
The music, the score is amazing. The book is hilarious. It's like a huge Broadway show. It's just so fun. It's so fun. It's lighthearted, but there's also a lot of heart in it. So, and it knows exactly what it is. It's not trying to be like, I'm going to teach you this lesson, but it is about like female friendship and just like that love, right? Because that is like so strong. Yeah. And people just want to laugh. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we need another show that's like really good at telling a story of female friendship, like kind of like Wicked is, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So I want to talk about Merrily because you were talking about how you've learned so much from like the three in the room.
Yeah.
And so you did New York Theater Workshop with that show first.
Yes.
How did you get involved in the New York Theater Workshop version of that show? And when you did get the call that you were involved, what was your reaction when you like saw your co-stars?
Yeah. Well, so I actually had gotten back from Denver about 2 months later, I got an appointment for to audition for Beth, actually. So my initial self-tape was for Beth. So I did, the song Not a Day Goes By and the scene leading up to it and the scene afterwards. And from there, I got a call back, and it was a callback for to understudy Beth, ensemble to understudy. And we were like, yeah, we'll do that. I think it was, I was still very green. I have only like X amount of things on my resume. So a major musical revival at a major New York theater or New York theater with a great team. We were like, yeah, let's be in the ensemble and understudy. And I was 25 at the time. So it's, or I was 24 at the time. So went into the room, and actually, sorry, to answer your other question, I knew that Dan and Lindsay were already attached, and it was like unconfirmed that Jonathan would be a part of it. So I knew that those people were already attached to it, going into the room. And we also knew that we would potentially be transferring to Broadway. So even the initial appointment, I was like, okay, like this is like major, major. So I went into the room, had a callback, and then had a second callback. And it was one of the best rooms I've ever been in. And I think that's a lot to do with Maria and Tim. Maria being our director and Tim being our choreographer. And I just had never felt more like, I guess, more seen and taken care of in a room before. I felt very safe, especially doing that material. I think, and Katie Rose Clark has to do it every night. She has to just like get dropped into the show, and she has to like be so full and so emotional, and have all the life and and past that the two of them have, right? In the show. And I think Maria did a great job in our initial callbacks of allowing us to like be dropped in and to just go for it because that's what she wanted to be able to see. It was very cool. And I remember after my last callback that I had, really feeling that I wanted to book this because I wanted to work with her and I wanted to be in that room. Truly.
Like the camaraderie. I can't say it. The
Camaraderie.
camaraderie. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I was like, I just really like her as a director and I want to work with her. Like she was so good. So I think there was a bit of that. And it was interesting too, because it's so funny. My agents and my manager, I tell them about all my auditions. And most of the like, and there are times where I'm like, guys, I think I just booked this. And it's funny because Ross, my agent, was like, anytime anyone says that, we like know that they didn't book it. Like we're like, there's no way that they booked it. And it always happens that way. He's like, but every time you say it, you book the job. It's very interesting because I did the same thing for Rattlesnake Kate. I did the same, and I did the same thing for Merrily. I was like, you guys, I think I booked it, and I did, and it was really crazy. I was like working at a restaurant at one time, at the time, and we have like a group chat, the three of us. And Ross, my agent, was like, hey, like, I have to tell you something super funny. I just need to get off this meeting. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had just found out maybe an hour before that one of my like best friends was also in final callbacks for the same role, like the understudy Beth and ensemble. And she had let me know that she did not get it. So I was like, oh, I wonder if I was like, it's like, well, I guess I didn't get it or something. And a whole hour later, like my shift has started at this restaurant.
It felt like the longest hour, probably.
Yeah. My shift had already started at this restaurant. I was like, hey guys, I just need to step out for a second. And I like go outside and I get on the phone and they're just like chit chatting me and whatever. And they're like, yeah, like, how are you? What are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm at work. Like, whatever, just like small talk. And they're like, yeah, well, we just wanted to like let you know that you are going to be at the New York Theater Workshop. And I was like, wait, what? And I was like, wait, what? And I just like immediately started crying. And it was so crazy because I think at that time, I also understood that that means that I would potentially be making my Broadway debut within the year because it was a part of it was a part of the initial like audition that it could potentially be transferring. So I think like that reality also washed over me and I like started calling all my friends and like sobbing on the phone, literally like on the sidewalk of New York while I was supposed to be serving tables.
How am I supposed to continue work?
Yeah, I know. I literally was like so puffy and red because I was like crying for like an hour. And then my boyfriend Jason like showed up with flowers like midway through my shift. Like it just was like such a beautiful day. And it's funny because when we finally did get the announcement that we would be transferring, I had like already cried about it. So I was like, wow, this is so cool. But I had like already had that like initial reaction.
You're like, I assumed.
I didn't though. We found out Off-Broadway that we would be transferring, but the only people that were announced were the leads. So we technically weren't announced. So, and we didn't have deals, we didn't have deal memos, and we didn't have right of first refusal. So I was not celebrating. I did not celebrate until I had that offer in my inbox because anything can happen. So I was not about to celebrate. Not until
Hey. Did all of the original people from the New York workshop stay
everyone
on?
transferred.
Wow, love that.
Like amazing. Because that never happens. Because people book stuff and it's one of the most talented companies I have ever been a part of. So I was like, I don't know, the odds that we are all back is like unlikely, but everyone's back and I'm like so grateful for it.
The team was like, we have to get everyone back.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it's such a good group of people. Yeah, the New York Theater Workshop production I think was so special in many ways. And I think one of the biggest ways is that there was no separation between the cast, the crew, and the band. Like everyone was so happy to be there and just so excited to be like playing with each other. And it was just like the most beautiful sense of camaraderie ever. And I don't know if I'll ever have an experience like that again, but it is like one of the things that I like hold closest to my heart, I think.
when did you all step back into a rehearsal room post doing the workshop?
9 months later.
And
Yeah.
what was that like for everyone? I assume it was like the first day of a new school year for
Oh,
everyone.
it was absolutely first day of new school. We had like meetings the first day, and I think it took us probably 20 minutes to start because we were all just like chatting and like having a good time.
They're like, class.
And that's how it's been. And that's honestly like that's how it's been like kind of the whole time. Like we're like always talking, we're always like having a good time. There's always laughter. Like it's so fun. It just is so fun. And I'm like, how the fact that we have a show to present to the audience right now is actually unbelievable to me because of how much we all just have been goofing off and having a good time and like messing around and talking. And like Janae, who is our amazing production stage manager, has to nicely remind us or kindly remind us that we need to stop talking so we can actually get work done.
Like, you all are having too much fun.
Are and like I know Jonathan actually made this joke the other night. He was like, we're not even like acting. Like we're just hanging out with our friends sometimes. He's like, half of the show we're not acting. We're just goofing around and having a good time. And I'm like, I think that that's what it should be.
Yes. I think it feels more real to people watching the show if it's like that.
Well, because we really are. We're all just having a good time. And that's something that people were saying off Broadway. And I think a lot of people are saying now is like, it feels very genuine. And because it is, because
Yeah.
we are just having fun. And like, I don't know, it truly is one of like the best things ever. I think it's one of the greatest things that'll probably happen in my lifetime, I think, is
I
doing this.
mean, it's huge and it's been widely talked about for so long and widely awaited by everyone.
Yeah.
I know that like there was like a whole discussion like playbills weren't ready for the first show or something. People were
Yeah.
like, how do I get my playbill for the first show on Twitter?
Let's come back and get some more.
People
Yeah.
were having a like full on stressing out on Twitter. It was
Well, yeah, but also like now you have something that no audience will ever
yes,
have those
yes,
like little printed book report things.
that's so cool.
Come on, y'all, think about it.
That's pretty
Just
epic
think
though.
about it. Just think about it. Sometimes you just gotta take a step back, you
And
know,
and
and
for
realize it's also a first preview. Like shit happens.
yeah,
Printing
for
errors
show.
happen. You know,
Love that.
it's paper. It's paper.
You
You're
gotta
gonna
look
be
at the bright side. You
there's
gotta look
always
at the
there
bright
is oh, okay. I'm not gonna say there is always a bright side, but come on,
most of the
it's paper.
yes, yes. And then you have an excuse to go back to the theater.
Yeah, I'm
And
happy to mail you a playbill if you really want one. I'm happy. DM me, whatever. We'll make it happen for you.
I
Because
just
now we
love
have playbills.
that it's so widely talked about. Like,
Really, I didn't even realize it was on Twitter.
oh yeah, oh yeah. People were like so excited to see the first preview of the show and like talking about the first preview. It is just why like all over my
What's the
timeline.
hashtag? Merrily, we roll along, or
Oh, I don't know. I think it just showed up on my For You page because I just like follow a lot of like Broadway people on social media and I just saw a lot of like conversation about the first preview. And I was like, this is so funny. But like also like it is like I feel like since Parade probably like the most looked forward to show that
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it is pretty cool. It is really cool.
yeah.
Um I was having dinner. I mentioned this earlier. I was having dinner with my friend Alex, and he was like, "So how are you feeling?" And I was like, he came to my first preview. So he came to my Broadway debut. I know, which is, I have the bestest friends ever
Amazing.
in the whole world. I had friends who like specifically came to our first preview because they wanted to see me make my Broadway debut.
That's
And I was
so
like, I
sweet.
can't believe it. I mean, I just like cannot believe you guys. It's just incredible. I mean, it's also very expensive. And because
Yeah.
Alex basically was like, you're gonna make your Broadway debut once. And the choice is I'm either there or I'm not. And I was like, oh my God, I love you.
So like I'm there.
But yeah, so he asked me like, how are you feeling? And I was like, ask me how I'm feeling when I'm doing like a proper OBC. Like when I'm doing a show that I have no idea if people are gonna like it, if we're gonna close in a week, like if we're gonna get bad reviews, whatever. Like, but with this one, there is something, like you say, it's so anticipated. And I think what's not to love with all six of those principals and the amazing company and Maria's direction and Tim's choreography and all the beautiful designers work, like it's something that I'm not saying that we're not safe from anything, but it is really wonderful to know that the show that we're putting on is a good one and that people really love it and are affected by it. um so there is a feeling of just feeling safe,
Yes.
right? And knowing that we're not going to close tomorrow, like the checks will not be bouncing, sort of thing, you know?
Yes.
So yeah,
Good feeling. It's a good feeling to have.
it is. But yeah, I was like, so ask me again when I'm doing like a proper OBC. Then I'll let you know how I'm feeling. Because the truth of the matter is we just don't you don't have like the anxiety of opening a show, right?
Yeah. But
You
it's
don't get,
also like this, I feel like it's also as big of a deal because you're
oh,
opening.
it is, but it's just a different sense of ease. There's just a sense of
Yeah.
ease with it all. That's it.
Yeah, with like a completely new show that you don't know how these people are going to react.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like you're like, hey, I like this show, but do the audiences like this show?
Precisely.
Yeah. So, how much of the show changed from New York Theater Workshop to the rehearsal room going to Broadway?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the concept of the show is exactly the same. A lot of our staging is exactly the same. There are minor differences throughout the show. And I think one of the biggest things is because we all had time away from it, we were kind of able to like wipe ourselves clean of it and come back with more life behind us, time behind us, and excitement behind us. And somehow, because I thought that all of our principals' performances off Broadway were actually some of the best performances I've ever seen, and somehow they're better. Somehow, and I don't understand how that's possible.
You're like, how?
How is it possible? But they've found more life. They found more comedy. Things are hitting in a different way. There's so much more detail and nuance in everyone's performance, whether it be ensemble and principals alike, and the specificity throughout the show. While it's so minor and small, it makes huge difference for the entire picture. If that makes sense.
I love that you're like the biggest fan of your cast. Like that truly
I
shows.
am I'm like the biggest fan of my cast, and I am the biggest fan of Broadway. I actually get like I'm one of the youngest people in the cast, and I have officially have the title of like being like everyone's little sister. So I'm really like the punching bag for everyone. And I'm also I'm so obnoxious and excited about being on Broadway and my love for Broadway. And it's like the best thing ever. So I'm constantly nerding out. Like there was on our first day of rehearsal off Broadway, like we were doing like character work and like my character in the first scene, I'm like the waitress at the big party,
Yeah.
right? And what we decided, me and Maria, and everyone has decided that like as the waitress, like I am actually an aspiring actor. So I'm like seeing all of these like fancy people and like I know who all of them are. And I just like hope that someone is going to like find me at this party and like make me a star is kind of what we're going for. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I mean, it's really not that hard to like do because like I've seen every single video of, and Katie Rose Clark was sitting next to me. I was like, I've seen all of her Glinda videos, like all those slime tutorials. I've seen them all, and I would just like said it out loud, and like Lindsay knows that I'm like actually her biggest fan. And I like nerd out about Wicked all the time. Like I wore a Shiz University sweatshirt to my first preview. Like I love Broadway.
Stop. I love that. You're
And
like,
it's
can you sign this, please?
well, it's just one of those things too that that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Sorry, I'm really going on a tangent here.
No, I love that. I love that so much. Because like, hey, it's hard. I feel like it's natural also
Yeah.
to like when you're in a cast like that to be like, hey, like I'm gonna like I'm a fan of everyone.
Well, and I think that it's a testament to everyone in everyone in that cast. One of the biggest things I've taken away from it that I hope to, if I ever in their position and leading a show, that I hope to have the same environment, is to create an environment where people can be 100% authentically who they are. And who I am authentically, like 100%, is like a huge ass Broadway nerd. I'm a huge
Yes.
nerd. I love it. It's the thing that brings me like
No
some of
shame.
the joy in my life, and I have no shame in it. And I'm in an environment where that is welcomed. And I may be the butt of the joke all the time, which I welcome as well, because I know it's safe. And I know that while I'm going to be crazy and so silly and stupid sometimes, that it is bringing people joy. And because like my joy is joyous for other people.
Yes.
And I feel so safe and so excited to be excited. You know what I mean? Like I
Yes.
don't like dim myself because that's not the vibe. I'm allowed to be like, oh my God. And then I love Sutton Foster. And did you watch her anything? Like, you know what I mean? And I do that shit all the time. I'm always talking about Sutton
Did
Foster.
you see the Broadway World article?
Yeah. Yeah, literally. So, so it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful to be in a workplace and a work environment where I feel like my true self can thrive, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Professional to professional. I'm curious, since you're understudying Katie Rose Clark's character, has she given you like any piece of advice that has stuck with you?
I actually I haven't asked her for like, can I have some advice? I think and I haven't done that actually with really anyone. Um because I am seeing them work. I am
Yeah.
like kind of seeing the advice that I would imagine they would give to me every single day. I think something that is top of mind for her and Lindsay, they are both working moms, right? Katie has 3 kids, and Lindsay has a 2-year-old, and they are on Broadway, and they've worked on Broadway with their children. And I think, as someone who really wants to have a family someday, who thought for a really long time, I have to choose, seeing these 2 women do it what seems so effortlessly, which I know isn't. I know they are exhausted. I know they are working overtime, and their partners are working overtime, and they have so much support around them. But I think it's a wonderful, beautiful example that like you can have both, right?
Yes.
It's going to be very challenging at times. It's going to be very difficult, but it's also going to be so fulfilling, and it's going to be so amazing. And hopefully, I'll have a cast that is similar with this, that when they're there, everyone wants to play with them. Let's reprieve the mamas and let's play with their kids. You know what I mean? And that's like my favorite thing. I love it when their kids come to the theater. I'm always like, let me play with them.
Joy.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, give me your kids. I want to play.
Like kids are so simple in like the best way because like they find joy in everything.
Everything.
They're
Yeah.
like, I saw an ice cream shop today.
Yeah. So it's
Like,
fabulous. But yeah, so I think that I think is priceless for me, is seeing them in action, and the love and care and the grace that they have in the room, knowing that they are probably running on 3 hours of sleep and all these
I
things. You
don't
know what
know
I mean?
how.
They're incredible. They're absolutely incredible. Every single person. I have like nothing bad to say.
Yeah, the mom thing, I'm glad you pointed out because I don't know how, like, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean it's like a new conversation that people are having, right?
Yep. It's
Yeah.
it's insane. It's a responsibility. It's another job.
Yeah.
Like, so when do you start during the rehearsal process of a show make bringing yourself to a character you're understudying?
Um, I mean, the really wonderful thing about the transfer that we're doing is, because we all we know the show already, right? We've actually had a couple of understudy rehearsals with Maria, which is amazing. That doesn't normally happen. You normally don't start understudy rehearsal until post opening, because there's always so much to do, and there's not enough time ever. But with this, we've had some understudy rehearsals. So I think what's exciting is, I know the role right from Off-Broadway because we had understudy rehearsals then. So I think that sort of thing starts immediately, right?
Yes.
You learn the material, and we were fortunate enough to like have some like work sessions with Maria during this process. And I have my idea of Beth within the parameters that Maria and Katie have decided that what Beth is. And I work along those lines, right?
And we're also in such an age where I feel like people love seeing different interpretations of roles,
Yeah.
which is really cool because I mean, understudies, I go to shows to see understudies on. I go to shows multiple times to
Yeah.
see understudies on. And I
Yeah,
think other people do too.
totally. What I think the great thing about it is, yes, while you have to have specificity, obviously, with everything that you're doing and saying, especially when you're understudying. But I think like you can't help but bring your own life experience to the role. So you don't really have to work. I don't have to work to add myself into it because at the end of the day, me on that stage in that role opposite whoever, it's going to be coming from me because it is me, right?
Yeah,
My life experience. You don't have to bring any of that with you because it's going to, you're living in it. It's living within me. So I don't have to like work hard to be like, oh, and in this moment, I'm going to make sure I'm doing this, right? Because that's the thing is you do all the work beforehand so that when you're actually in it, you can let it all go and know that it's just going to, and trust that it's going to be there.
yes. Yes. Do you have a favorite scene in Merrily? Whether a scene you're in and a scene you're maybe not in?
Yeah. I think my favorite scene that I'm not in is It's a Hit. I love It's a Hit.
Why? Why?
There's so much joy. There's so much joy on that stage. I'm looking at these people and I'm like, this is not Frank, Charlie, Mary, Beth, and Joe. This is Reg and and Lindsay and Katie and Jonathan and Dan.
Yes.
Like, and it's just it's like my favorite thing. Off-Broadway, I would watch it every night because it's like my favorite thing to watch.
You like
Um,
can't miss it.
can't miss it. It's so good. They're all so good. And my favorite thing to do every night, it's such uh what is my favorite thing to do every night? Oh, I think my favorite thing to do is that Frank, the opening, because I'm the waitress in that scene and my show can be ruined in the first like 30 seconds of the show. And I mean that because I have to carry out a tray of champagne glasses. And every night I am terrified, scared shitless that I'm going to drop them. And I did. I dropped one last night. And it's funny because I have a bet with Stage Left, our props guy Jim, that if I drop any liquid, I give him $1. So I owe him $1 today. Yeah, so that's my favorite part of my show. Because after that scene, I'm like, okay, what's next? You're like,
You're like everything else is easy.
it's easy, freaking peasy. The only thing I have to worry about is not dropping liquid on Broadway. So that's
Oh
it.
my god, I would drop everything.
Yeah. I mean, I have too many props in this show. Don't tell him I said that, but I have like 50 props. I do so much with props.
I would probably drop everything and just like they'd be like, "Can you stop breaking stuff?"
Yeah.
Like honestly, no. So how would you convince people to come see Merrily We Roll Along on Broadway while it's open?
Oh man. I don't know.
I
Um,
think the joy.
the show doesn't need much convincing. I mean, come on. But no, I think yeah, there's too much joy, there's too much fun. There's a lot of heart. I think the most beautiful thing about our show, depending on how old you are, honestly, you take away different things, which I think obviously you would think that with most shows that people would take away, different messages or whatever, but I think the thing that is interesting and the most interesting thing about our show is depending on how old you are, you see the ending of the show very differently, in my opinion. I think when you're young and you see our show, because it goes backwards
Life
and
experiences.
it goes backwards, and you're meeting the trio when they're first meeting, when they're young, they had just moved to New York, they have all these dreams, knowing how it ends. And I think when you're young, you hold on to that image and knowing that there is so much hope and that your dreams are possible, right? But I think if you're an older person and you're seeing the show, I'm finding like from the conversations that I've had with people is it's a little bit more heartbreaking because you have seen where these people start and you've seen how the choices they make throughout the show has destroyed their lives. And I think when you're older, you realize maybe the choices that you made that you maybe regret, or oh, that's how it got me here, right? How did you get to be here is the question that we keep asking everyone. And we're asking that to Jonathan, but we also ask the audience in our prologue, right? We ask the audience directly, like, how did you get to be here? And it could be an exciting thing, like, how did you get to be here in this theater tonight with all of us, right? But also, how did you get to be here in your life? And I think it's very interesting. It's a very interesting introspective show that I think, depending on who you are and where you are in your life, it can hit in a different way.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
take different things away. So like if I went with my grandmother, which like I do to a lot of shows, like we take different things away.
I think so.
Yeah.
I
Which
think
is
so.
really cool. And then you have the conversation as you're leaving the theater.
It's
Like that
fascinating.
leads to great conversation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that is, I mean, I love a good combo after a show.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I would even talk about the show with the person like you saw it with for like hours after the show and like go on and on, or like the next day be like, oh, that reminds me of when.
Yeah.
Like that's special. So before I wrap up, I I want to ask, what is something that you know now as an actor that you wish you knew, like years when you were graduating?
Hmm. I think it would be like, yes, this is my profession, right? It is what many of us do, and it's very important and it's very hard, but that it is supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
joyous. Jonathan actually, I asked Jonathan for advice. I went back to that program that I went to, Musical Theater University, and I asked the entire cast to give these kids, their high school kids, some advice. And he said that I also feel similarly, but he said I treat every show that I'm in like the high school play, like it's a high school play. The love I have for the high school play is the love I have for every show that I do. And I think like that is so important. Because while yes, we do this because we need to pay our bills and because we love it, but it also should be fun.
Yes.
And I
Because
think it's so important.
yeah, because I feel like if you all aren't having fun, like the audience definitely takes that, like sees that. The
Yeah.
audience sees the cast having fun and they're like, okay, I want to come back.
Yeah. I want to have fun too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to come back. I want to have fun. I kind of want to be in this cast too, even
Yeah.
though, yeah. What's your dream role on Broadway or in?
Oh God. Millie. I want to be Millie Del.
Oh,
Freaking bad, dude. It'll
okay.
probably never get a revival, but it's okay.
Yes. Yes. Sutton
But
Foster.
I love her. I love her.
Back to
I
Sutton.
love Sutton Foster. I should just get that on a shirt.
Do it. Do it. I'm sure there's like an Etsy shirt or something
Oh
that's
yeah. Oh
very
yeah. Definitely.
appropriate to get.
Yeah.
Yes, you can just wear. You can wear that to the theater tomorrow.
Yeah.
Who inspires you as an actor and why?
Who inspires me?
Sutton Foster, obviously.
I know she really does. Actually, you know what? And I'm not even saying this because I'm working with her, but Lindsay, actually, ever since I met her when I was in high school. Um, but I have followed her career
Yeah.
so closely, and I'm actually so inspired by her. I don't know if she knows this about me, but yeah, I think there's so much about what she's done. And I think something that's like truly incredible is, well, first of all, she started out in the ensemble and now she's a Tony winner. And I think like that is something that's super inspiring because there's always these conversations of like once you're an understudy, you're always an understudy. If you're not pinned as a lead, you're never going to be a lead, that sort of thing. And I think has done a great job of breaking that, right? And understanding that she is a fucking force to be reckoned with. Um, and I think what inspires me about her is that no one sounds like her either. That voice is incredibly special. Incredibly special. No one sounds like her. You hear her open her mouth like that's Lindsay Mendez. No question, right?
Yeah, you know, from like
No
the
question.
hallway.
Yeah, but that is her. She's also such a good actress. Like it's actually insane. The level of specificity and natural instincts that she has is incredible to watch. And I have learned so much just watching her every day in rehearsal and getting having the opportunity to hear her voice. I also watch Now You Know every night. That's also my one of my favorite parts of the show is I watch it every night. Ever since Off-Broadway. And yeah. And again with the whole mom thing. I mean, she does it effortlessly. Effortlessly. And she is the kindest, most genuine, hilarious person I've ever met. And she really cares. And she really, really cares because here's the thing she knows that she has power in that room because she's Lindsay Mendez, right? And she's one of the trio and she uses that power for good and like helps all of us and advocates for all of us when we feel like we don't really have a lot of merit or a lot of advocacy for ourselves, if that makes sense.
I love the little wicked pun in there. The for good. For
Oh,
good.
and even that's where I live, I just live in that world. I love Wicked.
Yes. She was actually in, I saw Godspell was the first show I ever saw in NYC.
Oh wow. She's so
Yeah.
good.
So that's cool. So where can people follow you on social media to keep up with what you're doing, to keep up with your exciting Broadway journey, Broadway debut?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you can find me on Instagram at Leana Rae. And then I'm new to the TikTok world. I actually just posted like my first TikTok about Merrily like the other day. And it's also Leana Rae, but it's double A at the end of Leana and double E at the end of Rae because
Cool.
unfortunately Leana Rae was taken. So I don't know who that is, but if you could just hand me that username, I would really appreciate it.
Like, can you give it back to me?
Yeah.
Hello. Yes. So, do you have anything else that you would like to promote, or do you just want to tell people come see Merrily on
Yeah,
Broadway?
come see Merrily, you guys. It's such a good time. I don't think you'll regret it. It's one hell of a night at the theater. So come see it.
Yes. And when do you all open, like officially?
October 8th.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
gonna come before you know it.
It's already here. It's like September 22nd already. I'm
I
like, whoa,
know, it's crazy. It's like,
weeks.
where did September go?
Yeah, 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks.
Insane. Well, thank you so much for joining me and talking to me on this today. I had so much fun, and I cannot wait to get back to New York so I can come see the show.
Yes, let me know when you come.
Yes, I will for sure. I'm so excited. People have been asking me about like when I'm going to New York to see it.
Yeah. Oh my
I'm
God, I
like,
can't wait.
I don't know, but soon.
I absolutely cannot wait. Yeah, definitely let me know.
Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!